General Hospital rumors and updates reveal that Michael Corinthos has some suspicions about who has been stalking Daisy Gilmore. This instilled enough anxiety in her mother, SASHA Corbin, that she took Daisy and moved in with her parents overseas, with Jason Morgan delivering them to Robert Scorpio. Michael had bonded with Daisy, and it was difficult for him to let her go, especially if he now has sole custody of Wiley and Amelia Corinthos. Naturally, he was concerned about Sasha's claims that someone was gaslighting her, and had unrestricted access to Daisy. Yuri hadn't even seen anyone enter. The more he thinks about it, the more he concludes that in order to slip in and out discreetly, someone must be familiar with the Quartermaine mansion. Not only that, but Michael recognizes that someone must have a key, because all of the doors including the kitchen, foyer and stables are locked. Even more unsettling is the possibility that the same individual would have access to the other children in the mansion, including Wiley and Amelia. Michael becomes very concerned. He considers keeping the kids for a little when the truth of the situation dawns on him. Michael considers keeping the kids for a little longer. He hasn't spent much time at the Quartermaine estate with them. They would view the gatehouse where they no longer live for security concerns, and desire to return to live there as they once did. They feel at ease staying with Carly Spencer, who is accompanied by her younger sister Donna Corinthos and occasionally Avery Jerome Corinthos. That way they'll have someone to play with, even if Amelia is a little older and Wiley is at a hen party. As Willow attempts to make amends, she is shocked by Michael's accusation. Michael gets an epiphany and understands that Willow must have been gaslighting Sasha and moving Daisy about, and he realizes that all of the locks must be changed. Willow returns to the estate to plead with Michael about the children, and she is taken aback when he informs her that he believes she was stalking Daisy. Fortunately, all of the time she snuck in to play with Daisy, Wiley, and Amelia were at Carly's, so she couldn't have tried anything slick. Willow breaks apart again, and she acknowledges it, and the reason is that she planned to teach Michael and Sasha a lesson. Michael now realizes that something must be done about Willow's condition, and immediately, before she deteriorates further. Drew in the chapel takes a big breath as Willow walks down the aisle. He extends his hand to her. Lucy begins the ceremony, asking if anyone knows why these two should not be married. Ava and Albrecht gaze over at Nina. The ceremony continues. Rick notices Liz, which irritates Ava. Following a speech, Lucy asks the bride and groom to exchange vows. Drew expresses his love for Willow and assures her that her children will return to them. He praises her strength and bravery. Their future is bright and lovely, and he will do everything in his ability to keep her happy and start a family. Willow, quivering, pulls her hands away and asks if he slept with her mother. He's shocked. Alexis leads Scout out, and Drew reveals he and Nina had an experience. It happened more than once, but they had no affections for one another. He reveals that he was fighting his love for Willow because she wanted him to, and he did not want to jeopardize her marriage. She informs him that he did worse. He ruined her marriage. They dispute over what transpired between them. Willow complains that she is continually defending him to those who have destroyed him. She was such an idiot for believing him. Willow swears she would never give up her children for him, but she did. She accuses him of ignoring the children and offering anything to obtain her. She suspects he misplaced the children and warns him not to touch her again. As she storms away, he attempts to pursue her, but Nina leaps in and stops him in his tracks. She claims the secret is out, and everyone knows he's a scumbag. He tells her that she was right there with him, yet she waited until Willow's wedding day to inform her. She claims she was waiting for him to do the right thing and move away so Willow would not lose her family. He warns her not to play the victim, reminding her that she drugged him and arranged him up with an escort. Nina claims that everyone knows who he is now, and his credibility has been shattered. She may never be able to forgive herself, but she knows Willow will not forgive him. Martin informs Lucy that it was worth the price of admission, but they won't have to go through divorce. When she says he'd be amazed how often ceremonies she performs end this way, he admits he's not. Drew approaches with an assignment for him. Nina expresses concern to Ava about where her daughter has gone. Molly recalls Christina's advice not to grease up Cody because he's slimy. She accuses him of desiring her hands all over him. She thinks he's not irresistible and she won't fall for him as Ava did. He wonders why she's concerned. They argue, and he asks whether her sister said anything. She asks him to drop this. He gets up and leaves frustrated. When he picks up the book, he notices she isn't reading War and Peace, but Rawhide and Satin. She gulps. He taunts her and begins reading it to her. She admits she's been a romantic since she was a child and has even written a book. He is impressed. She maintains that the book is purely research. She instructs him to get the mole on his back checked and runs away. Michael returns Christina to her mother's home, where they discuss Molly and Cody. He thinks they're interested in one other and wonders why she's attempting to stop it. Christina describes Cody as the type of guy who would woo a lady for money. She knows because she hired him to do this to Ava. He requires an explanation for this. His sister says she did something terrible. He claims he will strive to make things better. She admits she attempted to assassinate Ava and almost killed Rick and Liz by accident. She came to her senses and attempted to stop it, but it was too late. Michael claims she got lucky. Christina explains that Rick and Ava found out what happened and have been extorting her mother ever then. She is certain he is disgusted. Michael wishes he had been there to help. She reminds him that she is a grown woman who is lucky not to be a killer. Christina feels awful for her mother and the risks she has made. She reveals that she is attempting to separate Ava and Rick, which Cody is there to do. She is startled that her sister is interested in Cody and figures she has no idea who he is. Christina wonders if she's deluding herself into believing this strategy is for the greater good. Her brother says she's dug herself a hole and he'll assist her out. She requests him not to tell her mother about the blackmail. Alexis and Scout step in. Scout announces that the wedding was strange and did not occur. Christina walks her away to make a sandwich, while Alexis tells Michael what occurred. When Christina returns, Alexis reveals that Drew was sleeping with Nina. They're all appalled. Joss walks into Jack's office, and he asks for her side of the tale. She reveals that they planted the tracker, and it appeared to function. Brennan is disturbed about what her mother said. They discuss her relationship with Vaughn, and she says there is nothing real about it. He hopes so because Vaughn is merely playing a role. Jack questions Joss's office ABC. Joss believes she can handle it. He receives a call regarding Greta, the gopher. They lost her. Someone may have located the tracker. Greta joins Britt in the lab and delivers her the bag. Wiley complains to Jason and Carly at Carly's about Willow's wedding to Drew. Carly explains that they are in love. She and his father still love each other, albeit in a different way. Wiley still has questions. Carly reveals that Willow still loves him, but she is following a judge's orders. After Wiley leaves, Jason reminds Carly how well she is with children, and she complains about Willow's selfishness. She can't believe she ever had love for Drew, who says he just wants someone to order around. They discuss how similar this is to what happened to AJ, and hope that the children will understand as they get older. She expresses her delight that he has returned after appearing to have died. She waited for Drew because he was gone. They discuss the Brit double he saw, and he wonders if he should dig her up to confirm her death. Jason discovers Albrecht enjoying a drink in the vacant reception area. He has questions regarding Brit. Willow arrives at Carly's with tears rolling down her face, wanting to see her children. Michael had always trusted his instincts, but recently they had begun to work against him. Since Willow's recovery, little fissures had appeared in their formerly firm foundation. Subtle variances in how she responded to him, how she paused a little too long before answering questions, and how she diverted her gaze away when he mentioned Daisy, all began to grate at his thoughts. Michael had dismissed them at first. He had persuaded himself Willow had gone through too much, that the transplant, the trauma, and the instability around the Corinthos family had all taken their toll. However, the trend was unmistakable. The longer he observed, the more he suspected Willow was hiding something. Something centered on Daisy. Willow had always been nurturing, so it came as no surprise that she formed a bond with Daisy, a disturbed young woman who reminded her of one of the school's lost kids. But the relationship had progressed far beyond mentorship. Michael began to notice how Willow would excuse herself to answer unexpected phone calls. She'd hurry out at weird hours, often making vague explanations about running errands or having to get some fresh air. The final straw came one morning, when he discovered Willow's phone vibrating with a text message from an unknown number. "She's at the park again. Bring the tea." Michael's gut constricted. Bring the tea? Who speaks like that? And why was Willow receiving updates on Daisy's whereabouts? He felt a flash of jealousy and dread. Was she obsessed? Was this something more? He wanted to avoid jumping to conclusions, so he followed her. Quietly. Carefully. That Saturday morning, he noticed her leaving the house with a suitcase draped over her shoulder and driving toward the east side of Port Charles. Michael waited 15 minutes before leaving, keeping a discreet distance. When Willow pulled into a small private parking spot near the old gardens, Michael's heart began to race. He stood back as she got out of the car, looked about to make sure no one was looking, and then grabbed the bag and headed down a tiny woodland trail. Michael followed on foot, keeping just enough distance to avoid detection. She eventually came at a clearing, where Daisy sat cross-legged on a rock, looking nervous but comfortable. Willow approached her gently, as if she had done it countless of times before. She sat next to her, retrieved a thermos from her bag, and poured tea into a travel mug before passing it over. Michael crouched behind a tree, adrenaline rushing through his veins. This wasn't just a concern. This wasn't simply assisting someone in need. Willow was involved in something private, and she wasn't telling him. That silence and deception were worse than anything else. Willow grabbed Daisy hard before they parted ways, whispering something in her ear that Michael couldn't hear. Daisy looked up at her, tears in her eyes, and for a brief moment, Michael saw something intimate, trust, perhaps even reliance. That was when everything came together for him, or so he thought. He did not perceive an appreciative young woman being assisted. He witnessed fixation. He saw Willow immersed in a web she'd spun with Daisy at its core, and he was concerned about what it meant. Back home, he did not confront her right away. He needed to collect himself. However, the distance between them became terrible, and by the next evening, he couldn't take it any longer. Willow, he began quietly but firmly, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Willow looked up from her book, surprised. Okay. It's about Daisy. Her eyes widened slightly. What about her? Michael took a breath. Are you stalking her? She blinked, surprise and disbelief sweeping over her face. What? What exactly are you talking about? I saw you. At the park. I followed you. You brought her tea. You sat with her as if you had been doing this for a long time. And I saw the text. Someone telling you where she was. That's not normal, Willow. Her hands trembled as she laid the book down. Michael, no. No, I am not stalking her. I'm trying to help her. She has no one. She's been on edge, both mentally and emotionally. Her parents abandoned her following her second suicide attempt. She's couch surfing and scared, and you're not her therapist, Willow. Michael snapped. You have a family. You have children. You have me. Why are you sneaking around behind my back for her? Because you wouldn't understand. Willow shouted, voice breaking. Because every time I bring her up, you treat her like a problem to be fixed or pushed away. And she's not. She's a human being. She's broken, yes, but so was I once. And someone gave me a chance. Michael stared at her, thunderstruck. The words landed hard. He wanted to argue, to defend himself, but he realized that she wasn't entirely wrong. His instinct to protect his family had blinded him to the compassion Willow extended beyond it. Still, he couldn't let it go. You lied to me, he said more quietly. That's what hurts the most. Willow sat on the edge of the couch, her hands covering her face. I didn't know how to explain it. It started with one visit after she was discharged. Then she called me crying one night. Then another. She has panic attacks, Michael. She doesn't sleep. I didn't plan this, I swear. It just happened. And you never thought to bring me in? Let me help. She looked up, tears in her eyes. I was afraid you'd tell me to walk away. And I couldn't do that. The silence between them stretched for what felt like hours. Michael wanted to understand. He truly did. But there was a gnawing feeling in his gut that things had gone too far. Willow's dedication to Daisy, while admirable in theory, had morphed into something that put their marriage at risk. Not just emotionally, but in how it exposed their family to someone unstable. In the following days, the tension didn't ease. Michael tried to push past it, to support her, but trust once broken doesn't heal easily. He started noticing how Willow would pull back when he asked where she was going. She began locking her phone. They'd sleep inches apart but feel miles away. It felt like she was slipping away from him, and she didn't even seem to notice. One afternoon, Brooke Lynn stopped by and noticed the icy atmosphere. After coaxing Michael to open up, she gave him a hard truth. You either believe she's doing what she thinks is right and find a way to work through it, or you keep treating her like a stranger and lose her entirely. That night, Michael watched Willow from the hallway as she stood by the crib, gently singing to Amelia. Her voice was soft, eyes glassy. He remembered the first time he saw her with Wiley, how instantly maternal she had become. She had always led with her heart. Maybe that was her greatest strength and weakness. The next morning, he approached her not as an accuser, but as a partner. "Can we go see her together?" he asked. Willow hesitated, then nodded. That afternoon they went to the park. Daisy was surprised, at first uneasy, but eventually she warmed up to Michael. They spoke openly. Daisy admitted she was terrified of being institutionalized again, and Willow had become her lifeline. Michael saw it more clearly now. The secrecy hadn't come from malice, it had come from fear. Not fear of him, but of losing her ability to help. In the weeks that followed, Michael and Willow took cautious steps toward rebuilding. Willow agreed to involve a professional counselor for Daisy, and Michael promised to listen with fewer assumptions. They weren't completely healed, but the path was open. Still, late at night, when the house was quiet, Michael sometimes replayed those moments in his mind. The creeping suspicion, the awful realization, the gut punch of betrayal. He knew forgiveness was a process. He had to remind himself that love didn't mean never making mistakes. It meant being willing to return to each other, over and over, even when it hurt. Willow too struggled with guilt. She knew she should have trusted Michael from the start. But her need to fix things alone had become a dangerous habit. She was learning slowly that partnership meant vulnerability, not just with strangers, but with the person she'd vowed her life to. As fall approached in Port Charles, their world felt a little less chaotic. Daisy had found a temporary shelter through a community program Willow helped her apply for. Michael and Willow started going on short walks again, holding hands in silence, letting the breeze and the passage of time do the quiet healing work they both needed. But beneath it all, the memory of that confrontation would never fully disappear. It would serve as a reminder of how easy it was to drift apart, and how necessary it was to fight for the truth before the distance became permanent. Even as things started to settle, Michael couldn't ignore the lingering unease within himself. The memory of those secret meetings between Willow and Daisy still stirred something raw inside him. Though they had taken steps toward reconciliation, a quiet distrust still hovered, especially when Willow would mention Daisy or step outside to take a call. He didn't want to become the kind of man who monitored his wife's every move, but something fundamental between them had shifted, something that didn't quite fit back into place, no matter how hard they tried. Willow too was struggling. She could feel the way Michael watched her sometimes, not with love or even anger but with hesitation. She hated that she'd made him feel like a stranger in their own home. But she also didn't regret helping Daisy. How could she? The girl had been close to the edge, and without her intervention, Willow feared she would have spiraled out of reach entirely. In her mind, she'd done the right thing, but doing the right thing had cost her pieces of her marriage, and that truth settled in her chest like a stone. She brought it up one night, quietly, while they were folding laundry. "You still don't trust me," she said without accusation, just resignation. Michael looked at her, caught off guard. "I'm trying. I know you are. But you think I'm going to run back to her? Or keep something else from you?" He nodded slightly, not out of agreement but acknowledgement. "It's hard. Not just what you did, but how long it went on. You had a whole part of your life I didn't know about. That hurts." Willow sat down beside him, her hands tightening around a folded shirt. "I didn't mean to keep you out. I just didn't know how to let you in without making you see the worst in her." "That's not your decision to make for me," he replied, more gently than before. She met his gaze. "Then let's make a new one. Together." Michael didn't say anything for a while, but he reached over and took her hand. They sat like that for several minutes, in the silence that had once been tense but now felt like the beginning of understanding. In the coming weeks, they tried therapy together, something Willow had suggested and Michael hesitantly agreed to. The counselor helped them explore the deeper layers behind Willow's need to protect and Michael's instinct to control. They talked about trust, vulnerability, and the shared fear of losing each other in the chaos of their lives. Daisy faded into the background, not forgotten, but no longer a wedge between them. She eventually moved out of the shelter and into a shared apartment with 2 other girls from the program. Willow visited less frequently, and when she did, she brought Michael along or told him afterward. Transparency became their shared goal, hard-earned but deeply valued. By the end of the year, Michael and Willow weren't the same couple they'd been before all of this. They were scarred, a little wiser, and more aware of each other's flaws. But they were also stronger because they had chosen to stay, even when it was easier to walk away.